What's up, guys? Welcome to the Win Daily Sports Week 12 DFS preview. We're going to be talking about DraftKings, all the prices, and the players that you want to target for your Week 12 lineup construction. It's going to be fun. Win Daily Sports, guys, go check out the website. We've got lots of great material up there and articles, but I will be going over the main slate here, and then if you need more information, go check out all of the articles in the website and in the video description. So let's dive right in, starting with the highlight game of the week probably is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons. It should be an eruption week for the Falcons offense, really. Matt Ryan, 6,700 is a viable play in both cash formats and both in GPPs, with the Buccaneers allowing the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks over the past 4 weeks. Tampa Bay is one of the 2 teams, including the Giants, that are allowing over 300 passing yards per game on the road this season. And Ryan's last two games versus the Buccaneers in 2018, he threw for over 350 yards and multiple touchdowns in each contest. Julio Jones at $8,000, probably going to be a little bit chalky, but I think that this is the week that we finally see Julio get back in the end zone. I know I was touting Julio Jones last week. He didn't find the end zone, still had a decent game, but I think that we finally see Julio score. If you look at Jones, looking at his game logs, he's actually played best in games decided by 1 score or fewer. And the spread in this game is at right at 3.5 points, with the Falcons favored at home. So I like this game to be tight. I like this game to be close. We can see that the Jameis Winston-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers can definitely help keep this game competitive with their pass-happy offensive attack. So I do think that this is a game that you definitely need to target with Julio Jones and Matt Ryan for sure. So now kind of going into some more of the other plays here. So again, Austin Hooper's not going to play in this game, and Jones has another great history versus the Bucs. Over 130 yards in both games last year with 1 touchdown. Both games were decided by 5 points or less, and Jones has outscored since week 3. No team has allowed more touchdowns to receivers than Tampa Bay. In 8 separate instances, a wide receiver has scored 25 or more fantasy points against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, which is twice as many as the next closest defense. So if Julio can't blow up this week, I don't know if he's ever going to blow up ever again. If you're looking for some value, though, on this slate and this game, you have to look at guys like Calvin Ridley at 6,500 and Russell Gage at 3,900. I really like Gage as a play here. He's really, really cheap, $3,900 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, which I just described to you as being absolutely terrible. He's playing a full complement of snaps. There is no Austin Hooper. There is no Mohamed Sanu. So I like Russell Gage there as a very viable option there at the wide receiver position. For GPPs, I would honestly consider Brian Hill, 4,900. After his bomb-ass week last week where he totally, destroyed a lot of fantasy owners, I think that he's going to be really super low owned, but he's going to see the majority of touches in a game that the Falcons project to score a lot of points in and project to win, and they're at home. So running backs with high implied totals at home, you want to play. So Brian Hill, 4,900, super cheap, definitely a good option. And then tight end Jaden Graham at 3,300. We've talked about how bad the Cardinals' defense is against tight ends, but the Buccaneers have also been just as bad. Since 2010, only the 2019 Cardinals have allowed more fantasy points per game to the tight end position than the 2019 Buccaneers. So speaking of those Buccaneers, for Tampa Bay, the usual GPP plays are, as always, Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. I actually do prefer Godwin the most in this particular matchup. I just like his track record with Atlanta. 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games versus the Atlanta Falcons, and Winston should be able to produce even against an improved Falcons defense over the past 2 weeks. In his last 5 games versus the Falcons, Winston has thrown for at least 3 touchdowns in all 5 contests. So again, and then, if you want to drive into a narrative, Chris Godwin has 3 catches last week. It's the 3rd time this season he had 3 catches. And the first time, the next week on the road, he went for 8, 120, and 1. The second time he had 3 catches, the next game, he went for 12, 172, and 2. Next week on the road. And now, coming off a 3-catch performance, Chris Godwin again finds himself on the road. And, maybe this is another week that you need to bounce back into Chris Godwin. Now, so this is definitely a game you want to attack with GPPs. You want to have, bits and pieces of this game. But now we're going to get into a game that's going to be much lower owned, and that's the Broncos at the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen's going to probably be overlooked because of the matchup, but again, Josh Allen has rushing upside, and in this slate, there are not a lot of players in particular that have that rushing upside. So really like Josh Allen at 6,400. Phillip Lindsay at 5,200 is becoming a 3-down back, which is, at that price is really, really cheap. So I really like him, with a season high in snaps played last week, and the Bills allowing the 8th most fantasy points to the running back position over the past 4 weeks. If you're looking for even more savings, you can go to a guy like Tim Patrick. He's $3,000. $3,000, the sub minimum on DraftKings at the wide receiver position. He saw 8 targets, which was one more than Cortland Sutton last week. And you're not going to be able to beat that price if Sutton gets the shadow treatment from Tre'Davious White. Tim Patrick right now is on the injury report, but from some beat reporters from the Denver Broncos directly, they are saying he is going to play in this game. He banged up his shoulder in last week's game, but he came back and played, so it's just a maintenance issue. So he will be back, and he is someone that you want to start. You can play him in cash. He's super cheap, so that's why I really like him. And, they're getting to talk him up. Philip Lindsay called him a dog. You got to start dogs in your lineup. I start alphas in my lineup, so that's why you want to go with Tim Patrick here at $3,000. Moving to our next game here, Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints. You need cash running backs? Play the guys in this game and move on to the rest of your roster. Christian McCaffrey, 10.5. Alvin Kamara, 8.2. They're both locks for me in cash games this week. I'm not really going to try to get away from them and get cute. These are the two, main running backs. Both have great, McCaffrey is a tougher matchup, but again, McCaffrey is, basically cash proof at this point. Alvin Kamara at 8,200 is another player that's just basically a guy that you can do whatever you want with. Like, he is basically just like you just can't really stop him at this point. He kind of does a little bit of everything. I really like Alvin Kamara. I think that we're going to see he's finally getting back to health. The matchup is great against the Panthers, who give up the most touchdowns to the running back position. Drew Brees always plays better at home. So again, we got Brees, you got Michael Thomas. And Michael Thomas is actually, someone I've not really played that much this year. It's kind of hurt me a little bit, but not really hurt me in cash games. But Michael Thomas, his price went down after last week. He scored 28.4 points last week, and his price went down. He's averaging 29.9 points per game at home this season. So if you want to get off the Julio Jones chalk at 8K, you pay it for Michael Thomas at 9.3, and I think that you're going to see a much significant, because I think people are going to definitely reverse and pay down at Julio when they could be paying for Michael Thomas. Think about it. Michael Thomas could easily outscore Julio in this matchup. He's scored 29.9 points per game at home this season. That's crazy. On the Carolina side of things, DJ Moore at 6,200, again, is another really great play. He leads the NFL in targets, 43, but he's just not scored. So if you want to kind of get away from McCaffrey and a GPP, which I do recommend, DJ Moore is definitely a guy that you want to consider. Looking at Kamara and CMC, a lot of people are going to try to maybe stuff them into GPPs together. Don't think that's a great play. They kind of negatively correlate in each other. So in 4 games where these guys have played against each other, the last 4 games, including playoffs, Kamara has 2 games under 15 fantasy points, and in those games, CMC scored more than 23 fantasy points. And then in the 2 games where Kamara scored more than 22 fantasy points, CMC was left with under 20 fantasy points. So again, that's last year, so McCaffrey's kind of playing on a whole nother level at this point, but I would not play them together in GPPs just because I don't think that they correlate very well to each other both. I don't think you're going to see both 30-point games from them necessarily, which is why I think they're more of a cash play together where you can really, the total amount of points will be good, but not really ceiling plays from a projection standpoint for GPPs. Again, New Orleans is at home, so Traquan Smith, Ted Ginn Jr., really cheap guys, $3,400, $4,000. They're GPP plays. You cannot ever get away from those guys in these matchups where there's always a chance that they could go deep and really take one to the house. So I do like them in this spot here as well. All right, so we're going to move to our next game here is the Oakland Raiders and the New York Jets. Both quarterbacks can definitely play in this game. The Jets allow the 5th most fantasy points to quarterbacks over the last 4 weeks, and the Raiders are allowing the most passing touchdowns, 2.8 per game on the road this season. So Derek Carr, 6,100, averages 4 more points per game, 18.1 on the road than at home. And Sam Darnold, 5,800, has scored over 21 fantasy points the past 2 weeks with 5 passing touchdowns. Josh Jacobs, 7,400. He ran pretty poorly last week, so I'm not sure that this is really a smash spot for him versus Jets that are more of a pass funnel. Jacobs he's seen 7 targets over the past 2 weeks, so he's getting a little bit more involved in the passing game, which I like. So I think ultimately he could be a fine GPP play. For the running backs, Le'Veon Bell is really cheap for running back with a 3-down skill set, but his usage is a little bit worrisome. He's just playing 58% of the snaps and was losing some red zone work to Bilal Powell last week. So Le'Veon Bell is not someone I'm definitely trying to fit into cash game lineups. I just think that his usage is a little uncertain right now, but I think that he is option for a GPP play because, again, The matchup is good. They've allowed the 6th most rushing yards to backs over the past 4 weeks. And he does have upside in the passing game. And he's still averaging 20 touches per game. So, but again, it is a little bit worrisome with some of the other work that other backs that have been getting in. Robbie Anderson, 4,800. Robbie Anderson has yet to hit this year, but he did catch a touchdown last week, so maybe that's a sign for things to come. The Raiders have allowed the 2nd most passing plays over 20 yards. Robbie Anderson makes his bread and butter from those high, level plays, for those deep plays. So again, if Robbie Anderson is going to hit, it's probably going to be against the Raiders. So I like Robbie Anderson as a GPP flyer, and we know what his ceiling is at 4,800. He could definitely hit that ceiling if he takes a couple balls deep. Ryan Griffin, 4,200. I really like as a tight end. He faces the 5th worst team versus the position, and they've allowed the 2nd most red zone touches and 4th most red zone targets to tight ends this year. That's really a good spot. Ryan Griffin has been balling out since Chris Herndon, has exited with an injury. I even have a note here that literally says, likes Ryan Griffin, blank Herndon. So we're going to go with Ryan Griffin with the Chiefs coming up next week. This could be kind of a trap game for the Raiders. They may be looking over the Jets team that's kind of, they're just the Jets. But again, we saw this Jets team beat the Dallas Cowboys at home. So the Raiders, East Coast trip, early 1 o'clock game. This could be a trap game. Just saying. All right, Miami Dolphins at the Cleveland Browns. Guys, this has to be the smash spot for the Browns. It could be Browns onslaught, honestly. Baker Mayfield, 5,900, absolute smash spot against the Dolphins. 4 of the last 5 games, Mayfield has scored at least 17 fantasy points in every game versus the opponents not named the New England Patriots. The Miami Dolphins have just allowed 4 total touchdowns versus Josh Allen. Mayfield is averaging 17 points per game at home this season. With the Browns now without Myles Garrett, there's a strong chance the defense is going to allow more points. According to Pro Football Focus, the Dolphins rank dead last in terms of pass rush, which means Mayfield is going to have time to throw the ball. This bodes well for both of Mayfield's primary receivers in Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. Those are the main guys. He doesn't really throw it to anybody else, so they're really easily stackable with Mayfield in this matchup. Landry's been the one getting the touchdowns, but that just means Odell Beckham again. His time has to come eventually. And, maybe it's a little bit of Mike Williams, logic there, who hasn't caught a touchdown yet this year. But Odell Beckham is an elite talent, so he will find the end zone. Guarantee it. Booking it for this week. Odell Beckham Jr., 2 touchdowns. Let's go. Nick Chubb, again, someone to consider in GPPs because he should see a lot of work versus subpar run defense and not playing him in cash because Kareem Hunt has taken over as that pass-catching back. So, if for some reason Miami comes out and gets a lead, I don't want to play Nick Chubb because he's going to not be in the game, really, with Kareem Hunt taking a little bit more of that work. And if it's a blowout, Kareem Hunt could get some rushing touches there as well. Again, so that's why maybe it's not such a Browns onslaught because I think the Dolphins could probably put up some points in this game. The Browns are missing a lot of defensive key players. They're missing Myles Garrett, who's suspended. So I'm not so keen on the Browns defense as a great play just because of the fact that, hey, they're missing a lot of pieces. But that's, again, a reason why, again, maybe it doesn't matter because the Miami Dolphins just turn the ball over and Ryan Fitzpatrick can just implode against literally any defense. So that's something to keep in mind, that maybe the Browns defense actually garners a lower ownership because of the defensive missing players, which is why you actually hop back on, play them. That's why I kind of like Fitzpatrick and GPPs at 5,000 with surging wide receiver Devontae Parker. Since week 7, Parker has seen at least 6 targets in every single game and has surpassed 50 yards receiving to go on with 3 touchdowns. He's the wide receiver 15 overall during this time span. So we're going to get in a little bit of Odell Beckham here into this lineup. Oh, we can't because we have too many positions filled. So we'll get some Nick Chubb in here as well. Now we'll get into the tight. Oh man, I'm gonna have to cut off some salary here. Pittsburgh Steelers at Cincinnati Bengals. According to PFF, Mason Rudolph ranks dead last in PFF grade, 51.3. That's absolutely terrible. He's logged 5 big-time throws and 15 turnover-worthy plays this season. So I think that the Bengals can probably take advantage of this in Week 12. They are dirt cheap in this slate at 2,100, but I'm gonna play them. I don't care how cheap they are or bad they are. They are playing Mason Rudolph, who has been atrocious this year. So that's a guy I like, the Bengals defense. And from the Steelers side of offense is Vance McDonald. I like him for a lot of reasons. So 3,500. This is a very bad slate for tight ends. You can pay up for Zach Ertz, but besides that, you're basically getting paying down across the board. The Bengals are the worst team versus tight ends over the last 4 weeks. McDonald has seen at least 7 targets in 3 straight weeks. Last year in 2 games versus the Bengals, McDonald averaged 7 targets per game with yards of 68 and 39. 3 tight ends have seen 7 or more targets versus the Bengals, and they have all scored double-digit fantasy points. So, Vance McDonald, welcome to the show. You're in the lineup here, so we are going to be rolling with him in this matchup. Obviously, I'm going over the salary a little bit here with my build, so we're going to have to save some money somewhere, which I will fit in as we wrap up here with my last play that I really like here is with the New York Giants and the Chicago Bears. Everybody hates Trubisky. Basically, everybody kind of hates Trubisky at this point, 5,100. But in 2 of his last 3 home games, he has thrown for a total of 5 touchdowns. This week versus the Giants, who are allowing, again, like I mentioned, 300 passing yards per game on the road, the 2nd highest in the NFL. I think Mitch can get it done with the help of his receivers. I think you need to have a fair share of Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, and Taylor Gabriel. I'm leaning towards Gabriel a little bit more here. He's been really consistent over the last couple weeks. The Giants, over the past 4 weeks, have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So I really do like Taylor Gabriel in this spot as a receiver that you can pay down for that has upside, where we've seen games where Taylor Gabriel blows up. He's had multi-touchdown games in the past against, in really plus matchups. So that's why I like Taylor Gabriel as an option here at 4,200. Just looking at his game logs, he had 14 targets last week. 14 targets. The week before, he had 6 targets and caught a touchdown. The week before that, 69 yards receiving. The week before that, 53 yards receiving. So he scored 9 fantasy points and at least 4 in his last 4 games, at least. And we have in week 3, he scored 3 touchdowns, where he put up a 32.2 performance and then followed up with 1.6. So again, obviously a guy that's very volatile, but in this matchup, in this spot, Taylor Gabriel is an option that I really like. And Saquon Barkley, don't forget about this, guys. 7,900. He's also on 8K for the first time this season. People are off of Barkley because of the injuries concerns, but the matchup is good against the Bears. The Bears have not been that elite run defense that they have been in the past. They give up the 11th most fantasy points to running backs. And Saquon Barkley is a generational talent, guys. Don't overlook him. Play Saquon Barkley. He's going to make you proud and make you happy in your lineups this week. So that's going to wrap it up for my lineup construction here, but we do need to save some salary so we can actually have a lineup that we can actually put out here for the people. So let's see. I do like this for a GPP build. So obviously we got some Falcons here. We're bringing it back with Chris Godwin. We got some one-offs with Robbie Anderson, Bengals defense, and Vance McDonald. We're going Nick Chubb at the running back position, Alvin Kamara at the running back position. So again, I'm probably going to have to cut off some money somewhere just because I don't have enough money for a quarterback right now. So I'll wean off a little bit of Nick Chubb, see if I can get a different running back in here instead of Nick Chubb. I did mention I liked Philip Lindsay, so we're going to throw Lindsay up in this lineup. But this was 7,100, enough to fit in a guy like Matt Ryan. So we'll put that in there. We do have $400 left over, so maybe we'll see. Maybe we can, use that to get up to a different player. Let's look at the flex spot. We had Robbie Anderson in there at 5,200. Can we get someone else in better? Devontae Parker, another guy I mentioned as well. So yeah, Devontae Parker could be a solid guy, as an option that I mentioned there before. I'm not sure if I love him in this spot because I'm not really building around a Miami Browns stack. Oh, the decisions, guys, the decisions. But I'm going to throw Devontae Parker in there for now. Again, guys, things are always tweaking around. You're always making different choices, different decisions. But again, GPPs, you always like to go with 4 wide receivers because they do offer a little bit more ceiling than the running backs. But you do want to play 3 running backs in your cash game lineups. But again, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you for watching this on windailysports.com. Make sure you check out the links in the descriptions to get more content on the website. And make sure you go check out monkeyknifefight.com to take on all your prop bets. Excuse me. I'll take on all your prop bets. I'm excited, guys, for Week 12. So, again, go check it out on the website. Talk to you guys later. Good luck in Week 12.